Good late Thursday or late Friday. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now to give you a look at that watches warnings map here across the region. You do see here in toward that lighter blue, that's a freeze watch for Saturday morning. And then that darker blue here is a hard freeze watch. So going to be looking ahead toward that potential here once again. I know it's kind of an odd map here in a way because some offices here kind of do things different in terms of the exact criteria. You see not as much toward Tallahassee, but still freezing conditions expected towards Saturday morning in many areas out that way. So this kind of a little bit of a situation there. I want to clean that up a bit. It's just I know we have a big area, so sometimes freezes mean different things for different folks. I know as we look back up toward the north here, we had below zero temperatures like toward southern Tennessee, and that's a pretty big deal. But as we're looking at things, I mean, just a little bit above that, and you're not even seeing like freeze alerts in play. So it's all relative here, is my point. It's all kind of relative here as we're looking at things across the southeast, across the country, in terms of what the temperature criteria is, as we're kind of looking in the timeline here. So again, you can kind of just get an idea of what we're talking about here as we're looking ahead. Again, this is Saturday morning. Sunday morning is going to be a heavier freeze, a harder freeze for many folks, though. So there's something to kind of keep in mind here as we're looking ahead in toward that timeline, as we're kind of watching the progression of things here. I know we'll just kind of keep on tracking the latest weather information. But let me go ahead and switch on over right now toward the temperature map. I had this on as we were coming on here just a moment ago. So the radar showing the different showers here in some of the areas. You see northwestern counties there, some shower activity, some stuff toward the south of the viewing circle. Nothing overwhelming. A little bit of rain chance here, 20% or so on that Friday. We'll continue to kind of track things with that. I know across our local area, not seeing too much. Maybe toward the south, maybe there's a little bit more precipitation, but again, toward the local area here, not so much in terms of the overall coverage of the activity. So that is something to kind of take note of here on this late Thursday, early Friday. That's when we're doing this weather update. So just kind of making you aware of that. I know we're going to even have maybe Monday morning here, some frosty conditions, maybe still some freezing conditions toward the region. I know some of this here lately, you haven't seen as much frost because we've had the wind here in place, but still going to have damage from the freezing temperatures here toward crops, toward plants and the like. I got to make sure you take the proper preparations the best you can as we zoom on out. I know we've had just the extreme cold I was alluding to, like southern Tennessee, around Lawrenceburg. They were well below zero there earlier on in the week. Not seeing those type of temperatures right now, but you are seeing some snow here toward parts of Missouri, Illinois here. And you can see eastern Tennessee. I still have some wintry accent here in the overall picture. Not as prominent here toward it is further off, but toward the east, under the east coast, expecting a little more snow here potentially as we're looking ahead for that maybe morning commute, something like that. So just something to kind of bear in mind here as we're looking at things. Just kind of giving you guys an idea here, a little bit of perspective on that as we kind of look across the country. I know just going to click on a couple of things behind the scenes. I know there's a winter storm warning as we get toward Philadelphia here. That winter storm warning in play from 4 a.m. it looks like here to 10 p.m. as we're looking toward some of these different spots here, like Philadelphia, 4 to 6 inches of snow expected. So that's quite a bit of that there in terms of that white stuff there. So you gotta be kind of careful. Haven't seen to this level in a while with the snowy conditions. I know I've seen some of that earlier in the week toward that I-95 corridor, but I'm now going to see more here as the progression does go along. You see a lot of snow there toward West Virginia. You see it in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. Again, we were alluding to Missouri there a moment ago. So kind of zooming out there as we look. I know in the Northwest we've had icy conditions causing big problems. So some power outages are a plague in parts of Oregon here at this hour as we look at the current temperatures out that way there. So I know the weather pattern's been kind of noteworthy, and it still is. And you see negatives in Montana. I mean, we're not talking about southern Tennessee, but still negatives there in toward parts of Montana. Still a pretty big deal. Negative 11 right now around Great Falls. that kind of tells the story here as we're looking at things. We give you guys the very latest on the overall situation here. Again, I'm just trying to let you guys know exactly what is happening here as we're looking here across the nation, really. And you see a little bit of a thunderstorm risk towards South Florida there on that Friday. You see that as we're looking toward like West Palm Beach, Miami here. Hopefully no severe weather pops up in that. I know we had a thunderstorm risk general, and on Monday we had a couple tornadoes, so not really expecting that, but it's always important when you have a risk of thunderstorms here. Still kind of at least keep an eye on the radar, but that's not toward North Florida or really Central Florida here. As we're looking at things on that Friday, you get even tighter with this. You see West Palm Beach is in there as we get, I mean, I'll see the geography of it. And there you go, West Palm Beach. You see Clewiston. I mean, we have Fort Lauderdale in there. So you kind of get the idea. There's a lot of big cities in here. You have Pompano Beach. You have areas there like I mean, you just kind of look here, you have the Homestead area. It's just a general thunderstorm risk, but still, this time of year, something to kind of keep our eyes on here in the weather center as we look at the overall weather map. You can kind of see here, this is what we're dealing with. But now let's go ahead and kind of get on over toward the graphics. I think that'd be a good place to go now in terms of looking ahead toward that hard freeze threat here. And those different days of the threats in play. Saturday morning, those areas in the dark blue is what we're looking right now with the greater concern at least. So some damagingly low air temperatures. So protect people, pets, plants, and pipes. And we had some really cold air here going back as we're looking there Wednesday, Thursday morning towards some of those counties off toward the west, toward the north and west. We're in Bradford County here. I mean, as I'm looking, we're at 46 degrees right now, where we're at east of Stark. But as we're kind of looking at things, as we look ahead in toward the timeline, I know we're going to get pretty cold even here. We didn't really get below 30 here last couple mornings, but that's probably going to change. I know it was really cold, again, west and north of here, but didn't really get that cold air to come in as much, but this time it probably will, especially Sunday morning here toward Bradford County. So something to keep our eyes on. I know a long duration below freezing can add to the impact of it. And we have that Saturday morning for some, but Sunday morning for many in the area. Use extreme caution with space heaters. We see it over and over again. There's all that fire risk here. With those and the wind chill factor, that makes it even feel colder. I mean, we're gonna have trouble getting out of the 40s here over the weekend for the highs. So just bundle up here as we're looking at things. Now, again, you see the frost here on the ground in this photo. I don't really have a lot to show, like freezing weather, or maybe not as much frost here because of the wind chill factor. That's gonna make things feel cooler, but it's also not gonna really be a situation where frost is allowed to form as easily because of that. So, but you're still gonna have danger here. You're not going to have the white stuff maybe as much on the ground in a lot of cases, but still you're going to have that freeze danger here. So just got to keep that in mind. Again, protect people, pets, plants, pipes there. As we're looking ahead, even pools here can be an issue as well as we're looking at things. But again, these are the main ones here as we're looking at things, as we're looking ahead toward the weekend here. So I just want to make sure we make that point again. It may not be frosty like the background, but it's still going to be a situation where we're tracking dangerous cold here. But if you bundle up, if you take the precautions, you should be all right. So let's go ahead and look here now at that rainfall forecast here over the next 7 days. You can see here southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana here. It looks like quite a bit of precipitation, so maybe around Houston and Lake Charles. Beaumont in there as well. We could have some flooding concerns as we look ahead. So something to kind of be thinking about here. I know you can get to cloudweather.com/radar for an interactive look at things when we're not on the air. You can see toward our area, we're starting to get more moisture back in here overall. We had a little bit here on Thursday. Didn't really see that too much in some of the overall forecast in terms of the broad view, but we saw in the high-res guidance here. I know look at maybe a 1/10 of an inch here, something like that, toward like Stark, Gainesville, Jacksonville, next 7 days, but Tallahassee, maybe more like a 1/2 inch on average to 3/4. You see areas a little bit further off, Bainbridge there, closer maybe toward an inch on average in some areas there as we're looking toward Decatur County there, as you look further up into toward Quitman County in our northwest, southwest Georgia zones. So Just kind of giving you guys an idea there. Of course, we're always on top of things. Speaking of Quitman County, Seminole County there, that's where Donaldsonville is. Decatur County is where Bainbridge is there. As we're looking at our covered area, when I'm kind of talking about things, of course, we have to forecast for everybody here to some degree in terms of the broad temperature scale. I know we're always on for any tornado warnings now. We're moving through the 62 counties here, like we've been for over the last 4 years on the different platforms. For most of that, I know at the beginning couldn't quite do it on all the different platforms. We've been doing the simulcast on all of them for a while now. And you can see Facebook, Casey Cloud WX, Cloud Weather, Twitter /Exit Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And then Twitch there, Cloud Weather and cloudweather.com. I know we have the different tabs there, like the severe tab, for instance. You have your extra tab that shows some different rainfall forecast and the like as well. So some different things to check out there. But I know as we're looking here, temperature definitely vary by community here as we look at things here across the 62 counties. So something to kind of just bear in mind here in general as you're looking here, as you're looking across our region, because I know we'd make the forecast, but it's not going to apply the same for everybody. We try to kind of focus a little bit more toward Bradford with the numbers I'm about to show, but again, it's kind of all relative here in a way. I know you have more colder air generally here in these patterns, and most patterns around toward the west, toward the north here. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at our weather information. So again, I'm just kind of giving you guys an idea here of what's going on with that as we kind of look across the region. And I know, again, hard freeze there towards some of these areas there Saturday morning, but more so Sunday morning, as we're kind of giving you guys that idea. But let's go ahead and move on now to that extended forecast I was alluding to. You can see on that Friday there, 20% chance of rain, some cold air on Saturday, Sunday, especially. So you have it down to 25 here on Sunday morning. That's the coldest I've had on this graphic here all season. And now we had just a tad warmer there back Wednesday morning, 26, but it wasn't going to get as cold toward like Stark and Gainesville as it did off toward the west and the north this time. More of that cold air really coming in. It's the coldest morning of the winter, maybe for areas like Stark here. A real hard freeze could come into play for Stark and Gainesville here on Sunday morning. The wind chill will be a factor all weekend. It's not going to be great in terms of the temperatures, but I mean, if you're from areas in the Midwest or areas that are further up, I mean, as you're looking over maybe the Northeast, something like that, you're in a situation here where it's still not that bad. I mean, you don't want to go outside maybe just wearing shorts, but it's not that bad. So if you bundle up, you should be all right here. It's not like you're going to have frostbite here around very easily anyway. So that's the good news. We have had serious conditions across the country with the weather, but as we look here, at least we're not having severe weather in terms of like tornadoes or anything like that toward the weekend. As you look here toward Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, look how hot it's going to get. I alluded to this in the description. I mean, all things considered, these are really above average here. I mean, the rain could be an issue further to the west, but I mean, these look pretty nice, those temperatures there. If you like, I mean, the warmer weather, 71 Tuesday looks pretty nice here, 76 Wednesday, 78 Thursday. Some areas could get toward like Stark, maybe closer to 80. Some areas that are up toward the west here, maybe a little bit cooler, but still, you kind of get the idea. You kind of get the idea here. We'll watch to see if we get any stronger storms maybe later next week because of these warmer temperatures and that pattern. Didn't see a lot in the guidance seeing that right now, but when we get warmer this time of year and on this El Nino pattern, we're not in a neutral or a La Nina here. So we got to watch for more severe weather eventually, because I know sometimes in these patterns, the severe weather threats can really start to go up here as you're looking ahead toward months there and weeks that are edging at least toward spring there. So got to kind of keep an eye on that. I know eventually we're going to be switching out of that El Nino probably to a La Nina, which can be an issue for hurricane season, but El Nino still means severe weather. We had so many tornadoes there last Tuesday. I mean, we were just inundated with those there going back. I mean, just crazy to see how many we had there as we were looking there. It was the 9th of the month, and January 9, 2024, especially for that Panama City TV market, one they're not going to forget for a while. Dothan TV market. Less so for our counties. We had a tornado over there, Southwest Georgia. Seems like another tornado, maybe a weaker one towards Leon County, confirmed looking through some of the information there a little while ago. But overall, I mean, we had tornadic activity there, Southeast Georgia, Coffee County, too, we talked about a while ago, and one toward Jacksonville and Duval County near zero around Bayard. But again, it could have been a lot worse for our counties. Of course, it was deadly, though, for Southeast Alabama. And thoughts and prayers go out to those impacted there and toward the Florida Panhandle as well. A lot of damage. And EF3 out that way. I mean, it's kind of, I'm talking about tornadoes. So let's throw up the EF scale here real quick. We got an EF3 out there toward Panama City. Apparently, there's a satellite tornado with that as well. Looking through some of the information. So the severe damage out that way. Back last Tuesday, considerable damage there. As we're looking even in Southwest Georgia to some degree. We've had, in terms of our 62 counties, the worst outbreaks, but I mean, to have, it looked like 14 is what the Tallahassee office confirmed. That's a lot for them. That's up there with some of the bigger outbreaks they've had in their jurisdiction. They cover further out than we do here. We've shown you our coverage map. It ends there toward the west. I mean, we had special coverage of stuff further out because it was so significant, but our general area of coverage there, where we're always on for the tornado warnings, stops there at Liberty County. It stops at Quitman County. You kind of get the idea. I'll pop that up here as well. And we had even more of an inundation of tornadic activity further off toward the west, like something you rarely see. So that's kind of how it plays on out there as we're looking at things. Again, their coverage area, Tallahassee, goes out in the central time zone. We cut off at that central eastern time zone delineation. That's another good way to remember things there. But again, we were still on because it was so significant there, the overall impact, as we were looking further out toward the west there. I mean, you just don't hear about stuff like that here that often in the state of Florida. Satellite tornadoes there, and it means we had a bigger, more significant tornado, and then another one there in that Panama City region. And then, I mean, just crazy weather there for sure. As we were looking back last week, nothing in the next 7 days that really stands out right now. I know that was really standing out a week out. We're giving you a heads up here a week out. I mean, Tallahassee office, even a little more than a week out, giving a heads up there on that potential. So, again, we've seen worse toward our covered area, but it was really, really significant for areas there further out, Mariana and Panama City area, Southeast Alabama. I mean, it's got to go down really as one of their worst outbreaks they've seen in a long time out that way. We still had loss of life. It could have been more, quite honestly, if it wasn't for the great work the National Weather Service in Tallahassee and other folks there in emergency management and the like there did to mitigate that and broadcast toward that region there, especially the Panama City and Dothan TV stations there. So, again, it's a situation that could have been worse there, even out toward the west of our viewing circle. But again, always important to keep an eye on these tornadic situations as they develop, but nothing, again, that raises our level of concern really here locally. Of course, you guys got to watch out for random things like we had Monday. There's some weaker tornadic activity there toward I-95. Really didn't have a warning in play for that initially back on Monday on that MLK Day there, but you kind of get the idea. Just got to always be on guard for this active weather as we're looking at things here. But let's go ahead now and kind of pop back up to that planning forecast there again. You can see very cold. I mean, it's going to be some of the coldest that we've seen all season here, all winter. 48, 49 for the high there for the weekend days. So just bundle up. You'll be okay otherwise. You might want to stay inside for a good bit, but you can still get outside some. At least we're not getting lightning around or anything like that for the weekend. We just have to be inside when you hear that thunder rumble. I mean, it could be worse here. It could be below zero like it was towards southern Tennessee there, like early Wednesday morning, it seemed, as we were looking at things up that way. I mean, that was really, really significant there. As we were looking across parts of the country, they had all that snow slash ice around, and then you had in a situation there where things were able to get even a little bit colder, maybe because of that. They're kind of on the ground, and that's always intriguing when you have those type of conditions here towards some different communities. Models aren't going to maybe pick up on that as easily here. I mean, the forecasts are about 10 degrees off or so into where that area just kind of stood out to me. You don't see that very often in a cold setup where it was pretty widespread there in that area. About 10 degrees lower is what we actually saw in terms of readings and what the forecast was for because of that ice and snow there on the ground. It wasn't to be accounted for as much as an area maybe a little bit less populated too in terms of this able to get that really to kind of take hold, maybe not get as much in the models from there, potentially not 100% sure. I'm kind of speculating on that to some degree, but just kind of trying to guess because I just don't see that big of a disparity there as we were looking at. We're not expecting that around here, that we don't have anything like that on the ground, and about 25 looks about right for Sunday. A few rural areas can obviously get cooler. South Georgia, there's always a chance we get somebody in a rural spot to 19 degrees at the very lowest. So sometimes that wind can kind of keep things a little bit less there in terms of the differential between rural and urban. I know we've seen that here. We're at East of Stark. We're in a more rural location, and when you have the wind up, you're not going to see those extreme cold temperatures compared even like toward town. You have a pretty big disparity sometimes, and you have that situation where the wind isn't up, but when the wind is up, you're pretty uniform. So kind of interesting how that works there in that regard as well. I think that's going to do it here for tonight. Again, that's your extended forecast. We thank you so much for tuning in. We thank you so much for trusting me here. Again, it's been an active weather situation across the country, and we still have nasty situations like the deadly ice storm in Oregon, those deadly ice situations up there. We've had other areas of the country here, those cold temperatures. Literally, we've had people lose their life because of things like hypothermia. If you take the precautions around here, you should be okay, but there's always a chance that if somebody's not paying attention to this, then it can be an issue. So, I mean, we got to watch out for that fire risk. We always reiterate that here. This time of year, I worry because, I mean, I kind of, maybe I'm trying to downplay it a little just because we have worse weather in other parts of the country have it a lot worse, but their houses sometimes are more winterized too. So gotta be careful with those pipes here Sunday morning. That would be around Stark when you could have some issues with those, but then the space heaters, that is what really can turn deadly. So you gotta be really careful with those here. But at least we're not seeing record type lows like what we had in history, like 8 degrees or something crazy. We've seen that toward Gainesville before, I think. But I mean, at least we're not seeing that type of level of cold. But still can be problematic here. Still can be an issue here as we're looking at things. And in February, I mean, we could have another big cool down. It's just possible, at least I would say. Just in this type of pattern, the El Nino pattern, the roller coaster ride you would think would continue here. Doesn't mean it will, but you would think it would. So I just got to kind of keep that in mind here as we're looking at things, as we're kind of giving you guys the very latest. Again, just those homes there. If you have the space heaters, you got to be really careful because those can flip over and things can turn tragic in a hurry, can turn deadly in a hurry. I know we have that hard freeze watch there Saturday morning for areas like Waycross there and toward Nahana area, that region anyway, as we're looking at things, as we're kind of giving you guys an idea on what's going on here in the weather picture. I know it's just always interesting to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on in toward that weather picture here. We have those northwest, South Georgia zones as well. So again, kind of giving you guys an idea here. And looking at my maps, I know technically I guess it would be Blackshear more than Nahana there for Saturday morning. Nahana under a regular freeze watch for now to be more accurate with that. But as we're looking here, I know we have Douglas under the hard freeze watch Saturday morning, Pearson Saturday morning, Leesburg there in Georgia, Dawson, Cuthbert, Blakely. You kind of get the idea. So again, just trying to give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. You have Statenville, Fargo under the hard freeze watch, a regular freeze watch for Stark Gainesville, but even if you're not under the regular freeze watch, they don't issue those as much toward Tallahassee at this point of the year, the season. So keep that in mind here too. So that's something we're continuing to track here for you in terms of those nastier, cooler conditions here. I just gotta be kind of mindful. Again, there's the map, and I know Brantley County is where we have the Hunter Blackshears up toward Pierce County. So just kind of clarify that a little, but it's not gonna be that big of a difference in terms of temperatures up there. Those rural areas definitely have the ability to get a lot cooler there in some cases than others. So again, the wind chill factor, that kind of spreading things out, might not be as pronounced at some points, but I mean, it'll be more uniform by region, but those areas will still get colder further up than other areas down toward the south. You're not going to have as much of a rural versus urban type of delineation in many of these cases here. So more mixing going on and the like with the temperatures. But again, there's your information about your hard freeze here Saturday, Sunday morning. Just got to be continuing to watch that here in the weather center. You see these cool temperatures tonight, but generally what you'd expect here versus again that more pronounced temperature drop off here as we look ahead into toward the timeline for our weekend here. So we'll just continue to monitor all that. Just check and see if there's any questions or comments here from any of the viewers as you're watching maybe on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch here. I don't see anything, but again, we thank you so much for tuning in here as you're watching. Just hope you have a great night, a great weekend out there, and stay warm. Maybe have hot chocolate there if you want there. Coffee. This is that type of weather here for it anyway. So as you're kind of looking at things, as you're kind of having some fun here with these type of temperatures. We don't get them around here too often, but again, just stay warm out there. Stay safe. We'll see you back here in another update next week.